Mary Dyer's name is not one that is commonly known among the famous or infamous women in early American history. So who was this woman that, upon looking back at her imprisonment while standing on the gallows, stated that she had been, quote, in paradise for several days, and now I am about to enter eternal happiness? According to Myles, Mary Dyer has been in Anne Hutchinson's shadow for the last 360 years and desperately needs to be brought into the light. Myles' article gives a careful examination as to why Dyer should be held to, at the very least, the same standard as Hutchinson in the annals of history. Myles' statement, quote, Mary Dyer merits a place in early American literature because the history we have with her in it enables us to see an articulate possibility for the sustained practice of female dissent that nowhere else so clearly in evidence, shows her belief that Dyer's place in history is uniquely important to women's studies. Though there is no concrete evidence of when she was born, most historians believe that she was born in 1611 in London, England. In 1633, she married a Puritan milliner named William Dyer. 2 years later, the couple and their firstborn child arrived in Boston, where within the first couple of months became a part of the Boston church. Over the next couple of years, Dyer found herself in the middle of the antinomian controversy after friending Anne Hutchinson. This friendship would truly shape the rest of Dyer's life. In 1637, 1 month before her husband was found guilty of sedition for his role in the antinomian controversy, Dyer suffered a horrible miscarriage of a severely deformed stillborn baby. Hutchinson helped deliver the baby, and upon witnessing the level of deformity, decided to bury the baby in secret. Soon after the miscarriage, Hutchinson was put on trial and banished from Massachusetts. Dyer walked out of the trial hand in hand with her friend to show support. Someone in the crowd asked who she was, and the answer was given: she is the woman who birthed a monster. That answer drew the attention of Governor John Winthrop. He gathered as much information about the condition of the baby and wrote a description of the child using words such as having horns, scales, and talons, creating an image of a monster, not that of a human child. According to Jonathan's Field article, The Governor's Two Bodies, Polity and Monstrosity in Winthrop's Boston, Winthrop believed that Dyer's monstrous birth was a form of divine punishment because she was, quote, notoriously infected with Mrs. Hutchinson's errors, end quote. After enduring these 3 difficulties, Dyer decided to leave Boston in order to help establish a new colony that would later become Rhode Island. In 1651, Dyer and her husband returned to England. During their stay, Dyer converted to become a Quaker, where, according to Stella Setka, she, quote, emphasized the individual's relationship with God and maintained the belief that women could also be, like their male counterparts, instruments of godliness. 6 years later, Dyer returned to Massachusetts as a Quaker missionary. Even though the Puritan leaders had implemented many anti-Quaker laws, she was arrested and banished with the threat of death if she returned. However, in 1659, Dyer felt God's calling to return to Massachusetts with 2 others to spread the Quaker message. All 3 of them were arrested, and Dyer was forced to watch her 2 fellow missionaries be hung while she was prepared for the gallows. At the last minute, after pleas from her family, she was released. Less than a year later, Dyer again left her family to travel to Massachusetts and was yet again arrested. On June 1st, 1660, Mary Dyer was hung for defiance of not following the strict anti-Quaker laws. She was one of 4 Quakers hung during this time, known collectively as the Boston Martyrs. Dyer has been represented in a variety of ways over the centuries, everything from a heretic to a pious lady to a martyr. John Winthrop said that she was a very proper and fair woman, although of a very proud spirit and much addicted to revelations. Conversely, Martha Allen describes her as a woman of unswerving faith and devotion, a pious woman that is fueled by the conviction that her hand alone was needed to tear the garments of falsehood. Even her husband, for reasons unknown, testified that his wife's religious convictions, far from weaving her more closely into the fabric of family life, had torn her away completely from her duties as wife and mother, and that those actions are, in his opinion, inconsiderate madness. No matter how you view Mary Dyer, her unwavering faith is one to be respected. Over a 20-year span, Dyer never backed down from fighting what she felt was in conflict of her religious beliefs. When asked why she continued to defy their laws by returning to Boston, Dyer adamantly denied the authority of their law and claimed to have returned to bear witness against it. Whether this is bravery, piety, or defiance, Dyer never wanted to waver in her faith, even though she knew that it would mean certain death. Myles declares that, quote, Dyer recognized that the story of the Quaker sufferings in the colonies needed such a climax and willingly followed the spiritual leadings likely to achieve that effect, even though it would take the form of death. Dyer knew what she was doing. Some would even say that she was seeking martyrdom. Yet it was this die-hard stance against the intolerant, hypocritical Puritan laws, whether one buys into Myles' feminist views of Dyer's story or not, that begs Dyer's place in history not be overshadowed by Anne Hutchinson, but rather take her place beside her in the history books, just as she did walking out of her trial in 1638.